Hey everybody, what's up? This is Justin Banks, and I'm about to do a reaction video for this weekend. And I'm going to do a reaction video from one of my favorite YouTube content creators, and it's Felix from Germany. And it's all about the school system. So let's get to it. So in this video, she is going to make a lot of comparisons to the American school system versus the German school system. And I feel like there is no better topic that I can discuss because I have actually been a teacher in America. I've been a teacher now in Germany. I've completed a full year. I started last year after January, but now since I've completed a full, complete year from beginning to end, I have more insights to how I feel and what I think is good, what I think is bad. Because when I came in after the half year, I was like, whoa, it was like a learning curve. I had to learn so much, but now I can finally say, okay, wow, this works, what doesn't work, and give my comments. Now, she graduated from a gymnasium, which is level 1 version of the German school system. I work at a secondary school they call it, and it's a combination of the level 2 and the level 3 graduations forms that you can get in Germany. And so I think this is a topic that I'm very qualified to talk about. So let's watch the video and yeah, let's see how it goes.
Kids
All
get
right, let's get
divided
started.
into different schools at the age of 10. American kids have to attend the school that's closest to where they live, and are students pushed to go to college after high school in Germany just as much as in the US? These and more questions about the German and the American education system are what I'm going to try and answer in today's video. We'll talk about the good sides, the bad sides, and just what's different between the US and Germany. Disclaimer, it's a lot.
All right, first of all, when it comes to content creation, she has one of the best introduction, one of the best songs. A lot of those questions I have a lot of opinions to, and yeah, I think she does a great job. We're gonna skip over the introduction. We're gonna get to the actual topic.
Or 13th grade, respectively. If you want to hear more about the differences at the university level, you can check out one of my very first videos on this channel about college life. The link is down below, or you can just click up here. But, you know, please don't judge my video making skills from back then. Both in Germany and the US, the school system is different from state to state, so it's not organized on the federal level. The US has 50 states and Germany has 16 states, so a lot of the things I'll be saying in this video might be different in other parts of the respective country, but I'll try to make it as representative as possible. I personally went to school in Munich, which is in the state of Bavaria, so that's what my personal experiences are based on. I graduated from a gymnasium with my Abitur degree, and I also got my bachelor's degree in Munich at LMU. In both countries, kids usually start first grade around the age of 6. Some might start a little earlier than that, and some a little later. In the US, however, school in that sense starts before first grade even, in kindergarten, which is the year right before first grade. That's why Americans usually talk about K to 12, which means kindergarten through 12th grade. In Germany, we don't really have a term like that, but whenever people talk of Schule, so school, we refer to anything from 1st to 13th grade. We don't usually use the word Schule when we're referring to a university or other types of school. In those cases, we'd probably say Uni for Universität or Berufsschule or other more specific terms. So in the US, kids start kindergarten at the age of 5 usually, and at a lot of schools, kindergarten is actually considered part of elementary school, which usually ends somewhere after 4th or 6th grade. Then most of the time this is followed by a middle school or junior high from grades 6 through 8, and then finally high school, which is 9th through 12th grade. The high school grades are also usually referred to as freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior years, so 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, and those terms are used for the 4 years at college later on too, which is the standard length of a bachelor's program in the US. Now, in a lot of cases, all of these different schools that the kids go through over time are connected, meaning that kids often attend school with the same people all the way until they graduate high school. In Germany, things are structured a little differently. For one, kindergarten is not part of the school system at all. It's not mandatory for kids to visit, and even though it's the same word, kindergartens in Germany are actually what Americans call preschool, and preschools in Germany, Vorschulen, are what Americans call kindergarten. In Germany, kindergarten is more of a daycare kind of thing where kids can usually go at the age of 3 until they start first grade, and they don't have a set curriculum. US kindergartens, on the other hand, are part of the elementary school, as I just said, and have a curriculum and usually also a classroom, and some schools even have a kindergarten graduation ceremony. So in Germany, school doesn't start until first grade, with elementary school, which goes usually from 1st through 4th grade in most German states. And then after that is where it gets interesting. After elementary school, German kids get separated into
Let's
two
stop right there. There's a lot to talk about. All right, first of all, yes, we do use the same word kindergarten for both things, and do mean something totally different. I think even in America, it has become even more structured. I think when I started off in kindergarten, we got to sleep in school for about an hour. Take a rest. They had like a rest period. I think they have taken that completely out in the school system, trying to push them through so they can learn more. But the one thing I will push back really on is that the daycare in America versus daycare in Germany, or what they call kindergarten here, are totally different. Daycare simply means that someone's taking care of the kids while you're at work. There is no set curriculum. There's nothing. Now, I would say, in Germany, you do have daycares, and then you have what we call kindergartens. Now, the reason why I'm going to make the distinction, kindergartens do have structure. Even in Germany, they have some form of a curriculum as well. They have projects that the kids are going to learn. And you will start to see more Germans are actually pushing their kids toward more of these type of kindergartens where there is some form of structure, where there is some form of learning goals. Because there are learning goals. So we can't just say there's no curriculum. There are lots and lots of learning goals. And the kindergarten teachers are creating a portfolio for your child for every year through the process. And they're monitoring everything. So even though it might not seem like there's a set curriculum like in America, the kindergarten teachers in Germany are monitoring everything. They're watching how your children are developing. And they give you tips. So we have parent-teacher conference in kindergarten, just like we would in school. So when Justn was in school and Nelson and Sasha in school, they would tell us like, okay, which hand is he writing with? Does he have a dominant hand? Or maybe he doesn't have a dominant hand. Maybe he's not able to write across his complete body. Some people have that problem. They also talk about his social skills. If he's able to participate in group, is he not participating in groups? Is he involved? What type of things he enjoy doing? It's learning through play. So no, they're not sitting at a table the whole day, but there is a curriculum. So I will push back on that. I don't know if the American kid, I never went to a daycare in America. So I don't know if they also give the same evaluations, but I do know at the same time that the daycare is necessarily in America. If it's not certified, the people probably not even had a full type of training. we do have preschools in America, different between daycare and preschool. The preschool teachers do have training, just like the kindergartens in Germany do have training. But to call it a daycare, that normally means that people probably do not have educational training. They probably just, there might be one person that has educational training, but the rest of the people that's under them don't. They're just there to make sure the kids don't hurt themselves and make sure the kids are taken care of. So there's a difference between preschool in America and daycare versus kindergartens and what they call preschool here. There is a curriculum. The kids do have learning goals. So let's make the distinction. They do have that in Germany as well.
There are 3 different school types based on their grades. Hauptschule, or in Bavaria also called Mittelschule, is the lowest school type and ends after 9th grade. Realschule is the next highest, which ends after 10th grade, and then there's Gymnasium, which ends after 12th or 13th grade. There have been a few reforms recently with Gymnasium. I personally graduated after 12th grade. And only if you graduate from Gymnasium with a degree called Abitur or Allgemeine Hochschulreife in long, you can attend a university afterwards. Now, most German states have actually established a combined school type that allows students to either get a Hauptschulabschluss or mittlere Reife, like they would at a Realschule. So those states only have 2 different types of schools, the Hauptschule/Realschule type and then the Gymnasium. In Bavaria, we still have the 3 different school types though. Besides that, there are also Gesamtschulen, which are schools that combine all 3 school levels. But even though that was definitely the goal, the model hasn't really been able to replace the other school types. Now, I know that this has already been pretty complicated, but truth is, this is really just the simple breakdown. There are just so many different variations of these systems in the different states. And then there are also things like Förderschulen, for example, that I haven't even mentioned yet. In general, though, most people outside of Germany find it baffling that kids get divided by their academic performance at the age of 9 or 10. And yes, I agree, it's pretty crazy when you're used to other school systems. And there's actually a lot of pressure for many kids for that reason in 4th grade. Not only because of the decision of which school level they'll go to, but also about the school itself, because this is usually when they pick the school that they'll attend until they graduate. So what happens to the kids that aren't that great in math in 4th grade and therefore don't go to a gymnasium after elementary school?
Talk about that for a second. So I do like the 3-tier German school system. I like it because in America, I feel like we force every student to go to university. I think in the past 4 years, especially conservatives are pushing against that a lot because we realize not everyone has to go to university. We push people down this route and we've realized it's so expensive, so expensive. And it's not necessary. It's not about how much money you make either. There's a lot of jobs that do not require a 4-level degree, but we make it feel like that. And so I feel like in Germany, that's a really cool thing. I remember when I was a teacher in America, there was a boy, and you can tell that people ask him this question a lot because he had this so rehearsed. I remember he couldn't read, and he was like, all the teachers were like, boy, you need to learn how to read so you can get a job, a good job. And he said, well, I just want to be a truck driver. Like, well, a truck driver needs to be able to read too. He's like, speed limit 45. Red light means stop. Green light means go. What else do I need to know? And I laughed so hard. And he was right in the sense that, okay, he doesn't need to know everything, right? He was only in 2nd grade, so of course he needs to at least have a 2nd grade education. But in a sense, he is saying something that many Americans also believe now. I don't need to learn everything. Some of these skills, when I make it to high school, why am I taking biology? I know what I want to be. I want to be a truck driver, or I want to be this, or I want to be that. I'm going to go into the family business. Where I come from, farming is very big, very popular. There's a lot of blue collar jobs. People know that. So once they make it to high school, they're wondering, why am I learning how to dissect a frog? I would never do that for the rest of my life. I already know. But of course, I understand the majority of people don't know what they want to be when they grow up. And so, yeah, have to make the decision when you're in grade 4. That's the sucky part about it, right? Because who really knows what they want to be? And you're already at the 4th grade, at the end of the 4th grade, going to make this decision for all these children. I'm pretty sure Germany gets it right probably 80% of the time, or maybe 90% of the time, because their system is in place for years. But I'm sure there's a lot of kids that are like, man, you know what? I wish I'd have worked harder in the fourth grade, because now I realize what I want to be. I want to be a doctor. Well, you can't be a doctor. You're only in the third level school. All right. Well, I want to be a. I want to be I want to be a. I don't know. An engineer. Well, you can't really be an engineer because hey, you graduated from the third level school. See, that sucks because in fourth grade, even though I love school and I was making great grades, but I didn't know what I wanted to be. And my parents would have pushed me to the top school, of course, but I probably would have wanted to hang out with my friends. And that's also why I love the American system too, is that as she stated out, you stay in the same school from kindergarten to up to the 12th grade. You with the same people. And that's great because you make friends. We don't make friends based on intelligence. We have friends for different reasons. And the American school, so that means I can still see these people at least in the breaks. But if they were in a totally different school, I would probably lose my friends, or I would have lost half of my friends if I was been separated going to different schools. I would have made new friends, but it wouldn't have been the same. I had some lifelong friends when I moved before I left America that I stayed in contact with, and I got to do a better job staying in contact with now. But that's a different story. But the bottom line is, there's some advantage to the German system, right? Because there are kids in America who wish they wouldn't have to go through that full process, but at the same time, to do it at such a young age, that is terrible. And we're gonna watch the video. We'll continue. She's gonna talk about how there's a way to make it through the top, but I'm telling you, I've never heard of anyone ever making it through the top. All right, we're starting off at the German apprenticeship. Starting off next.
The German school system is pretty old and goes back to the 19th century when things weren't exactly targeted towards everyone going to university. That was something that only the intellectuals did at the time. Now times have changed obviously, but the division in our school system with different focuses has stayed, and while Gymnasium is supposed to prepare students to go to university, Hauptschule and Realschule are targeted more towards people going into trades afterwards. And for that we have a pretty unique system in Germany called Ausbildungen, which can be translated with apprenticeships or vocational training that you need to go through to become a certified professional in a lot of fields. In fact, there really aren't a whole lot of jobs that you can work in Germany without either a college degree or a vocational degree, which is either called Geselle, journeyman, or Meister, master, which is the highest one. An Ausbildung lasts 2.5 to 3 years, and even though you also attend a school during that time, Berufsschule, so like a vocational school, you mainly work at a company or business where you're basically being trained on the job. You'll be making money during that time too, even though it's not a whole lot usually, but it gets more every single year. And then at the end, you'll have to take theoretical and practical exams to get your Gesellen certification. So a lot of people in Germany do apprenticeships. Most of them do it after graduating Haupt- or Realschule, so after 9th or 10th grade at the age of 15 or 16. But people who graduate from Gymnasium oftentimes choose that path too. The numbers have changed a little in the past decade, with the number of college students for the first time ever being higher than the number of Auszubildende, apprentices. In 2012, there were about 2 million apprentices in Germany.
We'll talk about apprenticeship. All right. So, I would say two points. She's absolutely right. I wanted to get a second job in Germany. Not only did I have to ask my boss for permission to get a second job, but there are so many jobs that I would have had to get training for. There aren't many jobs where Germany does not, where Germany allows you just to work without any form of training. It's a great thing. This means to make sure that everyone is certified and qualified to do the type of work they're doing. At the same time, I think it takes away from me just being an entrepreneur, or it adds extra work for me to be an entrepreneur. It adds this extra layer. So maybe that's their way of protecting the labor force, right? If we are forcing everyone to go through this form of apprenticeship or this learning program, that means that no one can just come in from another country or another place and just start taking our jobs. They will have to go through this same process in order to do this type of work. We got to make sure that they're doing it the way we want them to be taught, but it's also make sure that we're protecting our workforce. So I think there's a twofold system, right? In America, we can probably say, oh, someone doing this. I think maybe we should implement something like this in America as well. Implement something to make sure people are doing it the way we want to be doing it, and it protects our workers, and it guarantees that the work is going to be done right. It's certified, so you don't have as many shade tree mechanics here or shade tree anything here. People working on the table. You do have that, but it's harder to find, especially if you want things to be done right and certified. Yeah. So we're going to.
Now, what if you're not good at school when you're 10, but you do want to go to university later on because you want to become a doctor or lawyer? Can you still go? Yes, there are different ways to do that. First of all, you can technically work your way up within the different school systems, but it's not really something that the school system focuses on, so it's not very common and there are a lot of obstacles to overcome, such as having to learn another language that wasn't part of your curriculum at the lower school, or having to catch up with a whole year of math or another subject. People who graduate with mittlere Reife from Realschule can attend schools called Fachoberschulen, for example, that have focus areas such as technology, design, or social work. At those schools, students will attend another 2 years to obtain a so-called Fachabitur, a subject-linked Abitur, which allows them to study at Fachhochschulen, which are universities that offer degrees in more hands-on fields than general universities do. Some of those schools also offer to obtain the regular Abitur by attending the school for a third year. And then, under certain circumstances, people who have an apprenticeship degree and a set amount of years of work experience also have the option to study at a university even if they don't have an Abitur degree. Long story short, there are a lot of ways and options that again differ from state to state, but even though it's possible to change your path after elementary school, it does come with a lot of thresholds for people usually.
All right, let's do this good. All right, I've been here 10 years. I've only heard of people going down from gymnasium, which is level 1 school, to level 2, level 3. I hate to say level 1, level 2, level 3. I don't want to imply that each school is worse or better. I think it applies to the type of job you're trying to do. And I think there's a stigmatism now in Germany, because when you tell someone you're going to a Real school, or you tell someone you're going to a Hauptschule or the main school, whatever you want to call it, people look down on you instead of you saying you're going to get your Abitur. And it shouldn't be like that. The great thing about the German school system is that based on what you want to become, you start working toward that goal. That's why I do like the Gesamtschule, which is very similar to the American school system. All the kids go to the same school, but of course, depending on what level that they're trying to achieve, their lesson plans, their goals, the classes that they're going to be taking are going to drastically be different, right? So I can still hang out with the people, and I might have a class or two with them, but the majority of my class is going to be focused on the level of grades that I'm trying to achieve. And I know American school systems are starting to do that with AP courses, but at the same time, a high school graduation degree is the same. I mean, high school graduation in America doesn't matter if you take AP course or not. You can still go to the same university, so it's still getting a university type prep thing. But I wish they would break it down a little bit more like the German system, just for the standpoint of the people that would like to, that do not want to go to university. For the people that just already know, basically, you know what, I am fine having a blue collar job, put me in this direction, don't force me to take this other stuff. That's the standpoint I do like. But the point I don't like is she stated that it's hard, it's the moving up. I have never met anyone that moved up, never. Now, in America, because of our system, once you get a high school degree, you have a high school degree. It doesn't matter if you have all A's or you have all D's. A high school degree is a high school degree, and you have the chance to go to university. I think that that's also a way that Germany is able to offer free university, because automatically, if there are 3 types of school, and let's say a third going to each type of school, that means only 1/3 of the population is even eligible to go to university. And then they can't even choose the type of degree that they want to do. They can say and get on the waiting list to become like a doctor, but if your grades don't match up, if they don't think you can be a doctor, they won't let you into the school. If you want to be an engineer, if you want to be, I don't know, anything, your grades have to match up with that. In America, technically, I can become whatever I want to be. I can have all these in high school. But if I can afford maybe getting loans or something, I can go to university and say, you know what? I want to be a doctor. They can say, well, sir, you had all these in high school. I can be like, you know what the truth is? I hated high school. I hated my teachers. But now flip the switch. And there might be one school that say, okay, we will let you into our pre-med program, but we're not going to give you any scholarships. You have to work your way up. But the bottom line is, I'm in the door. I can do that. Get my pre-med scores, show them do it, take the medical test, whatever I need to take. Boom, I can get into a medical school. And as simple as that. In Germany, they would never allow that. They will find some way to keep you away, or they'll put you on a wait list. I know an example of a lady that wanted to be a veterinarian, and her grades were not the best. And they told her that she could be a veterinarian in Germany, but she was on the waiting list. She was on that waiting list for 5 years. Now, after 5 years, she was finally able to start veterinarian school here in Germany. But who can wait 5 years? Man, after 5 years, I might even have a career in some other field. So to me, it maybe shows how dedicated she was to the field. But I think a lot of times that's a determinant. They'll be like, oh, 5 years. I can't wait 5 years. Maybe I should find something else to do. I think that's honestly the goal. How long are you willing to wait? How determined are you? It works both ways. Either you wait those years and be like, okay, I'm ready to start, or you're not. But that's after you have passed every single other obstacle. So let's just imagine in America, if we made the same rules that only a certain amount of students could go to university. I think university still would probably be expensive, but all these loans that are out there, most of these students that cannot afford to go to university or cannot get scholarships, and if they could not get a loan, it would drastically reduce the amount of money. I'm pretty sure the loan debt would not be as high if we told those students that your grades were not good enough, you can't even look at this school, don't even sniff this direction, go to a trade school, go here, go do that. Because why waste our time? If we accepted that, maybe there would be less debt in America when it comes to student loan debt. But at the same time, there's always a diamond in the rough. The students that hated school, hated high school, but once they had the opportunity to go to university, boom, they shine like a diamond. I can probably name 5 people right now who would have been screwed in the German system, but proved that the American system was right. At the same time, I can name 10 people in America that probably would have rather gone through the German system because they knew they had no reason and they did not want to go to university. So there's always advantages of both sides. All right, next part.
So as you could probably tell, I personally definitely think that this system comes with some flaws and disadvantages. Kids experience a lot of pressure at a pretty young age, and once you're in one of the school levels, you might get comfortable and might not really have a lot of internal motivation to put in the effort to work your way up, even if a higher school level would be a better fit for you. On the other hand, the German system also has some major advantages though. For example, that kids aren't forced to be in school for 12 years if it's just not something they're good at or interested in. For some kids, it's just a lot more profitable mentally and professionally to start working earlier in life rather than feeling like they need to try and go to college, which is the main narrative in the US. After high school, you're supposed to go to college, if you can get in, and if you can afford it. We'll talk about that in a second. Even though that narrative has become stronger in Germany too, and as I've mentioned, the number of college students has Now, in the US, this is handled differently. All kids attend the same type of school, even though money does play a role as to whether you attend a public or a private school, of course, but besides that, there is no dividing kids into different school levels. However, within the school, there are usually 2 to 3 different levels for each class, and depending on your performance, you'll be able to go into a higher or lower level for each subject, which I personally find a much better way to solve this overall. What's always been baffling to me is that at the end of 12th grade, grade, American students graduate high school just by finishing the school year. So if they pass 12th grade, they receive a high school diploma. In Germany, you have to take pretty big final exams to graduate. They're really important exams in all school types, but especially the Abitur exams in Gymnasium are considered the most important exams of your life for many people, and they make a major part of your final grade, which is crucial to get accepted to certain university programs. In the US, students usually take the SAT or the ACT tests towards the end of high school, usually in 11th grade, which are huge tests too, and those are usually one of the main factors when applying to universities. They're private, standardized tests that cost around $100. Many schools pay for them though, but they're separate from your high school grade, and you can technically retake them as many times as you want, which is not the case for the German final exams. In some American states, students do have to pass so-called high school graduation tests in order to graduate, but those are usually taken in 10th grade, so 2 years before. They aren't very challenging, and students get several chances to pass too. It turned out that those tests didn't really bring a lot of advantages with them though, which is why many states have discontinued them, and only 11 of 50 states have them in place today.
All right, let's talk about that for instance. I think that her information is very, very flawed on this subject. Let's start off with the final exam situation. So it's not that simple in America. It always depends on the type of school you go to. But you have to earn credits every grade, from 9th grade to 12th grade. And so each class, if you don't pass that class, then you have to remake that credit up. So it's not like you just graduate 12th grade and then you just go with it. No. Every year you have to earn so many credits to graduate. If you don't earn them, then you don't graduate. But let's talk about the final exam things. Depending on your teacher, and it's in Germany as well as in America, depending on your teacher, your final exams can be very easy or very tough. Now, she's right from the standpoint that the German system do have a huge final exam that they have to take. And if the students don't pass it, they're going to struggle, or they just won't graduate. But here's the thing though, and I found this out because my students in my school have to take one in the 10th grade because that's when they graduate, and 11th grade. I'm not gonna say the tests are, this is how it works. So let's say you have all A's and then you take the final exam just like in college and you fail that final exam. Then you get to take the exam again. It's not like they're gonna say, oh, you failed this final exam, so you're done. You do get to take the exam again. And if you fail it again the second time, it's not like you just completely wiped out. They will average that final exam score into your other scores as well. And if the average balances out, you will graduate. So yes, there is a standardized test, but that just means to make sure that you learn what you're supposed to be learning. But they're not gonna be like, okay, how can you have all A's at this school and then you fail this final exam, so you're not gonna graduate? It's not like that in Germany. So I think she made it seem like it's a lot worse than what it is. It's not like that. Because then that's more a reflection of the school, not necessarily a reflection of yourself. If you have all A's at a school and you fail this final exam, then either the school has been lying to you by giving you all A's, or you just wasn't prepared as you should have been, which means the teacher didn't prepare you. So it could be your fault. Now, if you had all 5s or all D's and then you failed the exam, then it just reflects where you were, and you probably had to repeat that last school year. But that's just a reflection of, it's just two different things. That means your grades weren't that good, the final exam proved it. But if you had all D's and then you passed the final exam with flying colors, they'll probably let you graduate still. They'll probably just let you go, oh, wow, that means he did learn the content. We just didn't grade him right. See, in the German school system, they don't receive grades like we do in America. In the German school system, half of your grades come from you taking tests. But the other half of the grades come from your ability to participate in the class. So there are going to be some students who probably participate very well in class, but not doing very good in the test, and their score is going to reflect, oh, well, they're still a C student. Well, you can be a C student and fail every exam, but participate in class. In America, we don't really use participation as a measuring tool. It's all based on the final exam, normally. And so if you fail the final exam, you fail the final exam. Now, she did put on about the 10th grade test, and we did have those. In Arkansas, students had to pass a geometry exam in order to graduate. And she's right, it wasn't like you had to make a 90%. I think you just had to make 60% and you would pass. And we did have students that did not pass. And every year we worked with those students by the time they graduate that they would be able to graduate, because they did make a thing in America that if the students did not pass the exam, they couldn't graduate. But of course, the year when they decided to implement that, the rate of students that would have not graduated was so high that they did decide to get rid of that test, or they get rid of the results, or get rid of that requirement of passing, because they did not want, let's say, I think it was over 100 or more students, let's say at least 10%. It had to be more than 100 students, but let's just say it was a significant number of students that weren't going to graduate because they weren't going to pass the exam. So she is right about that. So they did get rid of it from the state of Arkansas, their requirement. But to say that, I don't want to make it seem like the German school system is a lot harder than the American school system. If you are a good student in America, you will be a good student in Germany. If you are a bad student in America, you will be a bad student in Germany, and vice versa. Not to say, of course, you do have schools that are better and worse than others. That can be ignored. You have schools that are better in America. You have schools that are terrible in America. Same in Germany. You have schools that are great in Germany. You have schools that are bad in America. Honestly, the exams here in Germany, other than the Abitur exam and stuff, they don't reflect back on the teachers at all. In America, see, this is a catch. The part that I just found out. In America, if everyone passes the standard of passing the class, let's say you have a 90% pass rate of the class, but then you had a standardized test that it goes around and every student fails, that reflects bad on the teacher. So there's a motivation for the teacher to learn. In Germany, they don't care if the kid, if every kid fails, it's not a reflection on them. So it's just a reflection on their student. And so there is a little bit of pressure in America to make sure that your students are passing. In Germany, at least, I'm not saying that teachers don't care, but I've met enough teachers from conversations that, man, they don't care if their kids pass or not. That's on the kids. That's not on them. And they see it that way. And the teachers are sometimes not held accountable. And that's also the sad part. Sometimes you need to hold the teachers accountable. But yeah.
Now, one of the main questions that I get asked a lot is whether we have private schools and boarding schools in Germany. The answer is yes, we do. However, they don't play as big of a role in Germany as they do in the US, and we don't really speak of having a public school system and a private school system. Currently, it's about 9% of the German K-12 schools that are private, but they're becoming more popular every year. From my personal experience though, going to a public school really is the standard in Germany. They're free and they're considered to provide quality education all over the country. So it's not necessarily like in the US, where in a lot of regions public schools have a pretty bad reputation and only private schools are considered the good ones. In the US, 25% of all K-12 schools are private, which means that they're funded through tuition and donations, and the average tuition for private schools in the US goes from around $5,000 to like $20,000 a year. In Germany, even private schools aren't nearly as expensive. They cost around 250 to 300 euros per month on average, which is much lower than 5,000 per year. Most of them actually receive 2/3 of their funding from the government, and only the remaining parts have to be raised through tuition. Religious private schools are oftentimes supported by the connected church though, so that students don't have to pay any tuition at all, and a lot of other private schools try to scale the tuition money based on household income to make it more fair and accessible. Now, going back to the US, the vast majority of private schools are actually religious schools here, 78% to be precise. I have a lot of American friends who went to a Christian or Catholic school, but there are also Baptist schools, Jewish schools, and other ones. What's interesting about this is that while in the US it's only the religious schools that have religion classes, we actually have religion classes at all public schools in Germany. In the US, that would be against the principle of separation of state and church, which is a lot more prevalent here than it is in Germany. I'm pretty sure that I had 2 or 3 periods of religion class per week from elementary school all the way up to 12th grade, which I will say is way too much in my opinion. I think that time could be used a lot better. I personally attended the Protestant religion class, even though I'm not baptized, but there was also a Catholic class at my school as well as an ethics class for kids who didn't want to attend either of them. Some schools also offer Islamic, Jewish, or other religion classes. Now, while I personally believe that religion should be something that's practiced outside of school in Germany, I do think that things like ethics classes where people learn about different religions, but also talk about philosophy a lot, should stay. We did talk about those things in religion class too a little, but you know, the main focus was different. Besides religious private schools, Konfessionsschulen, it's also common for bilingual or international schools to be private in Germany, as well as alternative school models such as Montessori or Waldorf schools.
All right, so let's talk about that a bit in the private schools. So she's right, private schools in America are very expensive. But once again, schools are good based on location. In California, yeah, there are going to be some neighborhoods where people say they only go to private schools. But in America and other parts of the country, we have a lot of great public schools. That's why school choice is becoming more and more popular in America. It is very popular, where kids can just, the parents can take their kids to whatever school they want to take them to. Because we do realize when there's a good school versus a bad school, but we also support a lot of our community schools. A lot of sports programs, a lot of programs in general are connected to the regional school, the district school, and because they're part of the community, much more than they are in Germany, people normally will attend that school in their community because it's part of the roots, it's part of the foundation, and they want to see they help that develop. But let's talk about that. I worked at an international private school in Germany, and it's expensive. The German private schools, that are just there for, I guess, run by the German government, helped by the German government, or whatever you want to call it, 2/3. They are cheap, $300 a month based on your income. It's very similar to how a lot of kindergartens work here in Germany, where if you do have to pay for kindergarten, they base on your income, how much you have to pay. So it is very cheap compared to American private schools from that standpoint. But when you're talking about the international schools, they're normally private, you mentioned, those are in the tens of thousands and they're very competitive. And even though they call international school, every international school I've been to was at least 60% German. So a lot of German parents that can't afford it do send their students or send their children to these private schools. Because a lot of the German school systems, and so most people's opinions, are starting to go down. And it's not just based on education, but it's based on the same reasons that Americans feel like their schools are going down to: a lack of teachers, people want to blame immigration. So that's their way of trying to keep their schools, I guess, keep their students a certain way. So the same reason why people want to put their school students in private schools in America are the same reason why people are starting to put their students in private schools in Germany. Now, here's the kicker that she did not talk about. If you go to the secondary schools, like I work at, the level 2 to level 3, you will also see those are very diverse. The reason why a lot of parents in Germany are not putting more of their kids in private schools because a lot of the Abitur schools, a lot of gymnasium, the level 1 schools, they are about 80% Germany. And the reason for this is that there are a lot of students, especially immigrants, when you come to Germany, of course, if you cannot speak the language fluently, your grades are not going to reflect high enough. And so if you're in the 3rd grade and you just moved to Germany, or you're in the 4th grade, let's say you're in the 5th grade or 6th grade, and you just moved to Germany, and you are learning German for the first time, of course your grades are not going to be good enough to get into them gymnasium. So the reason why, in my opinion, why more Germans are not pushing for more private schools is because they feel like the gymnasiums are still relatively, for the conservative, and I'm not saying racist, but for the ones who worry about the pureness of the school, the gymnasiums are still pure in that standpoint. The same reason that people put their schools in private schools all the time is because they try to keep them away from a certain class of people. Some people say some people say the schools are better. They could be, but sometimes it's more about I'm willing to pay more because then I can control the types of people that are inside of the school or inside of this place. A private anything means you can control what type of individuals are able to come in and what type of individuals go out. Not necessarily part of racism, maybe it's a class thing, whatever the reason is, there's a reason why people want to keep certain groups private to keep certain people out. And because the gymnasiums have a way of doing that without being discriminatory, other than your grades are too low, because your German skills are not good enough, I think that's the reason why the German school system, there are not more parents pushing for private. I can't prove that, but based on when I go to visit a gymnasium and it's 80% pure German, and I go to other schools, other forms of school, and it's very, very diverse, I think that's where I'm gonna lay my hat on that one. All right.
As I mentioned at the beginning, the education system is organized on a state level in Germany. We have 16 states called Bundesländer, and each Bundesland gets to make its own laws and regulations regarding the education of teachers, the setup of the different school types, the curriculum, and the laws regarding how many years kids are required to be in school for. So basically, we have 16 different school systems in Germany, which I'm personally not a huge fan of because, for one, it isn't very economic, but it also makes it pretty hard for both students and teachers to move around the country. When families move to another state in Germany, their kids often struggle with adapting to the new school system there, and in a lot of cases they have to make sure to catch up on a second language or another subject. Now, as I just mentioned, one of the things that the states decide on is the Schulpflicht in Germany, the compulsory schooling that says that every kid has to go to school for a certain amount of years. In Bavaria, where I'm from, it's 9 years for K-12 schools, but even afterwards, all kids in Germany have to attend some type of school up to their 18th birthday, but that can also be a vocational school, for example. This means that in Germany, kids are legally required to attend an actual school, whereas in the US, homeschooling is a lawful alternative that parents can consider as well. So even though the US does have compulsory education laws, they're not compulsory schooling. Now, how is the school system set up within the US? Many things are regulated on the state levels, just like in Germany, but below that there are school districts. Even the non-Americans among you might have heard of families picking their new home based on which school districts are the best, or you might have also heard about redlining in a political context. School districts are geographic areas that function as a government entity for public school matters, with a so-called school board being at the top of the hierarchy. Every school district contains one or several schools, and the school district doesn't only play a role when it comes to decisions regarding the setup of the school, but also when it comes to funding and which students attend the school. The funding of public schools in the US typically consists of 13% coming from the federal government, 43% coming from the states, and 44%, so the majority, coming from local governments. The local governments, on the other hand, rely mostly on property taxes to support public education, which means that property-rich areas tend to collect more in property taxes, and therefore schools that are located in wealthier areas usually get more money than schools that are located in poorer school districts. It would be too much to go into detail about this, but as you guys might know, there's a lot of criticism about this, because over time, it obviously means that poor communities don't get the same opportunities and quality of education as wealthier communities, which then reinforces the socioeconomic divisions even more. In Germany, schools are run and funded by the general regional entities, which, as I've mentioned, are usually the states of Germany or the municipalities. School districts in the meaning of distinct legal entities do not exist in Germany, and with that, there's also no regulation as to which public school students have to attend after elementary school. school. So for elementary school, Germans do attend the school that is closest to where they live, but after that, people usually pick their school based on what focus the school offers or other factors, but it might actually be on the other side of the city, which is why starting in 5th grade, you'll see a lot of German kids take public transportation all over the place to get to and back from school, or they just take their bike like I did every day. We don't really have school buses like they exist in the US, and kids are a lot more independent in Germany in that regard, but I'll be talking more about that in the next video where I'll focus more on the day-to-day differences at school, including how the classes are set up, extracurriculars, school sports, things like prom, the differences in how strict and challenging the schools are.
All right, let's go in with the video with this. That's part of it. We do have school choice in America. And unfortunately, she is right about that, the school districts, and it's a very big topic. I remember thinking about funding year after year. Funding was, you get so much money per student per state, and when the funding gets low because you have so many students in your school, the more students you have in your school district, the more funding you get from the state. But the school has to be able to survive. And so we do depend a lot on property tax. And if people are not paying their property taxes, or if the property taxes are just really, really low, then yeah, it does reflect on the school. And that is one negative. But there's another reason why Germany also has, it's a little bit more free choice. It's because you do have a public transportation, the best public transportation in the world, well, one of the best public transportation around the world. And as an American, if you don't have a car, you're basically screwed. So you do end up going to the local school because that's where the school bus is going to pick you up. Germany, of course, because they have great public transportation system, they are freer to choose different schools in different areas, different cities. However, with that being said, there are schools they call burning point schools. So it means that they are basically served with the majority of students coming from low-income families. So it's not like saying that every school in Germany, they might get equal funding, but you still have low-income schools in Germany, just like in America. They might have access to everything, but a low-income school in America is just like a low-income school in Germany. What you really need to have is more of a buy-in from the community. So even if a school is poor, if the community buys in and supports that school, the school will be rich in resources, right? And a lot of times, if you are living in a rich neighborhood or living in a rich area, not only are they getting money, but they probably have parents that also support the school more. Maybe because they have time, maybe only one parent has to work versus two parents. So that standpoint to me is really moot. It really just depends on the buy-in of the community. I would say the school I graduated from, at one point, the buy-in was very high. When it came to sports games, when it came to this, when it came to different things, about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I was a lot younger, the whole community bought into the school. That means the whole community supported the school. They supported the people that went to the school. The school next to mine, for example, where I graduated from, that whole community is 100% bought in with that school. So it means that the students enjoy the school that they're going to. The parents reflect highly of that school. The sports programs are well taken care of. The other clubs are well taken care of because they have their buy-in. So it's not necessarily just about the funding. It's about the buy-in and the love of that school and the community that really makes a difference. We have a larger buy-in in America versus in Germany. Schools are just schools here. Of course, the elementary school that my son is going to, there is a huge buy-in. You can tell they have their own club, their own parent-teacher association, or I forgot what we call it, parent association, where the parents do support the school very well. And this does great. My elementary school is supported well. We have a great club that supports our school. But it's also about the community buy-in. Overall in Germany, you don't see that like you see it in America. So whether the school is rich or poor, live in the area, if the community buys into it and loves the school, it's going to look great. It's going to be taken care of. But if it's in a poor neighborhood or even in a rich neighborhood, but the people don't care for the school, then of course it's going to reflect. It's like a house that's people live in versus a house that no one lives in and the grass is growing up all around it. So with that being said, this is, like I said, I love this video. I just wanted to add my 2 cents into it because, hey, like I said, I am a teacher. I've worked in both areas and I know how it is. So I just want to get my 2 cents with that. With that, signing out. Peace.